Yo, what up? I just made my first film. Guess how much it cost me to make? I'm going to show you a little video which I made on about £2.50. The lens cost me £2.50 including postage from eBay. The aperture is broken. It kinda works. It's still there. But it kinda doesn't work. But that's okay. You can use these crazy old lenses, whack them up with like a cheap ass camera, and put some adapters on those bad boys, and you can have some real good fun. So funnily enough, I actually spent a little bit more than £2.50 than I let on. The initial camera costs a lot more than £2.50. It actually costs around £600 brand new, but you really don't need a camera with that high quality to get the same sort of feel, because ultimately the feel comes from the lenses. If you can find a camera which you're able to adapt old vintage lenses to, you're going to be laughing. You're going to have a really good time when you're making these videos, because the lenses is what separates you from having a standard iPhone. I do really like the not so shallow depth of field effect. I think it looks really good for many photos and many videos. And I don't think that the iPhone is the limiting factor in many cases. But in this case, I really wanted to create a dreamy feel for how I was presenting the film. In my film, I hope that I showed everyone like a really nice nostalgic vintage feel, a kind of feeling. For me, it was this feeling of being homesick and looking back at the home, and what's a nice bits about your like childhood home or something. Obviously this wasn't my childhood home, but I wanted to recreate that feeling. I was trying to do that with sound. I actually used my phone for a lot of the sounds which I captured, despite having this pretty decent microphone. It's really not that hard to make your film. So what I'm really trying to say in this video is, if you've got a film idea, if you just want to make films, the best way to learn and the best way to understand it is by doing stuff yourself. So by getting out there, by creating more content. You could do the same for YouTube. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as if you have that drive to learn. The only way that you actually learn is by doing it, making mistakes, making little renditions, going, oh, okay, this thing didn't work too well. Let's maybe change that this time. Let's do something different. And that's how you learn with anything really, but film especially. And I really think that if you want to make a film, the limiting factor is not your gear. The limiting factor is you. If Wakaliwood can do it, then anyone can do it. And you must have seen some of those interesting films coming out of Wakaliwood, but you know what? It's good they're doing it. They're learning, they're experimenting, they're having a great time with the gear, and they're having a really fun time while they're doing it too. I'm really not good at talking in front of a camera. This was the first time doing it properly in probably years. It's one thing speaking to a microphone, it's another thing speaking with your face in front of the camera. But next week, hopefully, I'll be able to get out a Portra video, Portra 800. This is really exciting. It's Portra is basically this like really fancy new film which they have just made, and no one's heard of it. It's pretty underground. But I think you'll really like it. I think it's kind of I think it's underestimated, to be honest, actually. Anyway, like and subscribe and all that jazz.